So the other day I got a lovely comment on my nature journaling video asking about the color mixing that I mentioned there. And as they say, when one person asks, another 10 people are also wondering about it. So I made this video especially for you. If you're a total beginner, if you know nothing about color, this is the video to watch. I'll show you, you know more than you think you know, and I'll prove it. We all have this innate sense of color. We all know a lot about color. We have an intuitive feeling about it. We just sometimes don't know the color theory behind it to explain it. But that's the easy part. You'll see. So color came very intuitively to me because I was a child of two non-artist parents who did not pay much attention about my paints. And I love to paint, so I painted a lot and used my paints, of course. So I did not want to throw any away. So my palettes were always dirty, and therefore I learned how to mix colors from what I had. But I can still remember the 3 distinct times when something just clicked about color for me. The first one was back in primary school when I was making a card for a teacher or I don't know whom, and I had 2 green cards and they just didn't look right together. And I was thinking to myself, these are both green, why don't they look together nicely? Now, of course, I don't have those cards anymore, but I can show you what I mean. If you look at these colors, they're not the best together. It could be even worse. It could be like this. Now, these colors are really terrible together, right? Why is that? I'll show you that in this video. And how to know which colors will go together nicely and which won't. I'll teach you all that in this video. So, I promised you I'll show you that you already know a lot about color, right? Now, imagine a faucet. It has the blue and the red on each side. Which one is cold and which one is warm? The red is warm water, the blue is cold water. The same goes for colors. Reds are warm, blues are cool. It's very easy to remember what is warm. Fire is warm, sun is warm, infrared light is warm. Those are the warm colors, yellows and reds. And then we have water and ice. Those are usually blue and cold, right? So you already know the warm and cold colors. Okay, but that's just the beginning. Let's break down the theory. Now we know warm and cool colors. Yellow is warm, red is warm, and blues and greens are cool. That's all pretty logical, right? But how do we organize them? And how do they mix? Well, here a simple rainbow can help. If we mix yellow and red, we get orange. And this one is right in between the yellow and red, right? We've all learned that in school. If we mix yellow and blue, we get green, right? And if we mix red and blue, we were supposed to get violet. But this one looks more brown. Now, why is that? What really connected the dots for me was when I learned that we have 6 primary colors. That means 2 versions of each primary color. We have the cold version of yellow and the warm version of yellow, although the yellow is a warm color. But we always have a cold and warm version of that color, if that makes any sense. Let me show you what I mean. No matter which set of watercolors you have, you'll always get these 6 primaries. They won't be always the same, but there will always be the 6 primaries. This is the Winsor & Newton set, this is the Schmincke set, and this is Vincent van Gogh. Let's take this out so it will be easier to compare. As you can see, we always have this lemon yellow, and this is the cool version of yellow. How do you know that? It leans more towards green, towards cooler colors, than this yellow, which looks a bit warmer, as you can see, and this is usually called sun yellow, cadmium yellow, or something like that. This is the warm yellow. Then we have the warm red. The warm red is the bright fiery red. Also, sometimes they're cadmium red, and sometimes they call it fiery red. And you can find it one version of this in each set of watercolors that you will buy. Then we have at least one version of this cool red. This is the alizarin crimson, or it can be called some rose or carmine and so on. And sometimes there are two of these versions, and one is more pink and one is more red. And then on to the blues, we have this ultramarine blue in all three sets, and this is the warmer blue because it leans towards the red. And then we've got this Prussian blue that leans towards the green and is more cold. And I'll show you on the paper because it will be easier for you to understand. So let me show you what I mean. This is the cool yellow and this is a warm yellow. You see the difference? They're both yellow, but they're totally different. And they produce different results in paintings, and definitely when you're mixing them. This is the warm red and this is the cool red. This one leans more towards blue than towards yellow, right? And the same with the blue. Although it's a cold color, this blue is warmer. It leads itself a bit more towards red than this other one, the Prussian blue. And this one is a bit more greener. Now, as a rule of thumb, you usually get a bit cleaner colors when you mix the cool colors together. However, you get the best orange when you mix the warm red and the more warm yellow together. So if I take some warm yellow and I mix some warm red to it, I will get a nice bright orange. However, if I mix the cool lemon yellow with this carmine, I will get a totally different orangey color. Much more muted, as you can see. It's not as bright. Even if you mix in more yellow, it's still not as bright as that one. And now we come to our problem from before. When we mixed this warm red with the warm blue, we got something like this. And this is usually not the violet we want. This is a nice color, it's a brown and I like it, but it's not a violet. If we want a violet, we need this cooler red. But if I mix this cooler red with this cooler blue, I get a violet. However, you can also cross mix, of course. You can mix this yellow, the warm yellow, with the cool red. So we take the warm yellow and cool red, and we get something in between. It's a bit brighter, but it's not as bright. And we can mix this cool yellow with the warm red. So we've got this cool yellow and warm red, and we'll get a much brighter color. Same with red and blue. If we want to mix this warm red with the cool blue, let's see what happens. Warm red, again we get this brown color, but it's brighter because of the bright red. If we take the cool red and the warm blue, this is our cool red and the warm blue, this gives us a very nice violet shade, the brightest violet probably, because these two colors are together on the color wheel. But we forgot something, right? I'll put the yellows down here as well, so it will be easier for us to imagine, because we also need our greens. And the greens are the most fun to mix. If you want a nice bright green, it's the best if you mix these two cool colors, and then you get this really bright green. And other combinations you'll see, if I take the cool yellow and the warm blue, I will get a bit more subdued green. It's still very bright, but it's not so bright as this one. And if we take our warm yellow and mix it with our warm blue, we get this olivey green, which is much more muddy. The warm colors will give you a bit more muddy colors in general, except for the orange. And we take this warm yellow and we mix it with cool blue, and we get another interesting green. As you can see, we can get a lot of different shades with just these 6 colors. And I only used 6 colors for the first 2 years of my painting, I think. because I read somewhere that that's the best, and then I just did it. And then I totally forgot I've got other colors, although they were in my palette, but I never touched them. So I still have to remind myself that I should use other colors as well. As you can see, the greens are practically untouched because I always mix my own greens. Now there's another trick I wanted to show you because it's especially useful for us nature generalists because it revolves around the greens and the greenery. We humans are evolutionarily programmed so that we see the green color brighter than it really is because we want to find the green stuff because we used to eat it a lot. Now, listen to your mom who says that you have to eat the greenery. We all know the greenery is good for us. That's how we were programmed. But because of that, we tend to see the greens brighter than it really is, and we also paint it brighter, and then it looks unnaturally on the painting. So it's very useful to tone down the greens. But how to do that? Of course, you can add the black, but then the green is also much darker. And you can add the brown, but then maybe it's not the right shade. And how do you find the right shade? What can you do? One way of toning down any color that you want is to just add a little bit of the opposite color on the color wheel to it. Here I've got the color wheel, and you can see the three primary colors, blue, red and yellow, and we can see the opposite of red is green. So if we want to tone down the red, we add a bit green to it. If we want to tone down the green, we add some red to it. If we want to tone down blue, we add orange to it. If we want to tone down yellow, then we add orange to it. So that's how we get the unsaturated versions of the same colors that usually look much more natural, because in nature there are not that many perfectly saturated colors. There are some and they're beautiful, but still a lot of nature is more muted, and this looks much nicer. Let me show you how to do that. I mix some green on my palette. By the way, this is a palette that my little one made for me at his clay class in school. And sometimes it happens that you've got a nice bright green, as we know how to make it, right? With lemon yellow and Prussian blue this time, cool yellow, cool blue. And we get this nice bright green that looks really nice, but it looks really unnatural in nature. No, the grass is usually not this green. But if we add a little bit of red to it, and this time I added warm red, we get a different kind of green. Rinse the brush, and if we add a little bit of cool red to it, we'll get a different shade. And of course it all depends on how much, on the proportions between those, but you can see these three colors, they kind of go together well, because they were made from the same color. And we can always tell if something was from the same color family, as we would say. And if we were just to take the black, actually this is not black, this one is, and if we mix brown to it, we get a bit subtler and a bit brighter color. And this is how you can always play around. And you can always count on it, like a general rule, that if you take two cool colors, the result will probably be quite bright, not muddy. You see? It's so easy to mix the same color again. I just took the same colors and I mixed them. And then you just see, okay, I need a bit more yellow, I need a bit more blue, and you will get the same color again and again and again. And you can always play around with adding a little bit of another primary color to it. Like I'll add some of this primary yellow and I'll get another kind of yellow. And this way you can get so many shades of green that will look well together. So this here was to show you that there is no right or wrong way to do it. Sometimes we want muddy colors, sometimes we don't want too bright colors, and it's alright to mud them down. It's not a problem. You can always mix them all together and get something really different. It can look nice, but it will look brown or gray. And sometimes you want that and sometimes you don't. So if you want bright colors, you can always mix cool colors together, and if you want bright orange, then mix warm yellow and warm red together. If you want to tone down the color, mix in some of the opposite color. And if you're designing something, you can always take care that there is one common color and all the others are mixed in with this one, and everything will look much more cohesive. That's just a simple trick. It doesn't have to be done that way, it just works. Now that was it for the color mixing in traditional media for the absolute beginners. I can make another video about mixing in digital art and some tips on how to do and choose the colors there, because it's a bit more complicated because you've got all the colors. So tell me if you're interested. But for those who would like to dive deeper into color, there's a wonderful book by James Gurney, and he also has an awesome YouTube channel and blogs every day for I don't know how many years. I don't know how he does it all. He's just great. So that's my recommendations. Those are the masters. But sometimes it's nice to get some info from somebody who is a bit closer to you on their journey, because the pros assume you already know the beginnings. Now's the time to get to know color, because March is coming and rainbows and leprechauns are coming. And of course, Holi from India is full of color. So it's the right time to dive into color. I hope to see you next week with some March bullet journaling. It will be full of rainbows and a lot of green too. Bye bye!